Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Natalie and today we're going to talk about why I tape my husband's mouth shut for his own good. So let's get going. Kind of an unusual title, obviously, but this is something that is not talked a lot about in dental hygiene. I actually found out about it about 3 years ago. I went to the Rocky Mountain Dental Convention and sat in a 3-hour course called LipZip. Breathe better to live better. And I was like, what is this? It actually sounds kind of interesting. A lot of times you go to the conventions and your CE classes are just snoozeworthy. They're so boring. Or it's all about, how to make more production and how to be a better cash cow. But this one was actually super interesting. So I sat through 3 hours of this. I sat in I think it was the 3rd or 4th row, and I couldn't get enough. I was taking screenshots of everything and I took tons of notes. It was just such an interesting 3-hour lecture. And if it ever comes back to Denver, I'm totally taking it again because there was so much information. I really didn't catch it all. So what it was about mouth breathing. And the whole lecture was on how mouth breathing affects so many different systems in the body and how things like allergies, ADHD, sleep apnea, even like glaucoma is tied in with mouth breathing. And of course your facial structure and orthodontia, whether you need it or not, it's all based on where your tongue position is and how you're sleeping and if you're walking around going like this all day. And it was super interesting. So I went home and I looked at my husband, who has been a mouth breather, I would guess probably since college. He doesn't have the typical mouth breathing shape. And I'll show you a really good example actually of two brothers that you are very aware of and know very well. Well, may not personally know, but you know of very much. And just look at the difference between these two. One is a mouth breather and one is not. Okay, so you can see from that example that Prince Harry is obviously not a mouth breather. He has a very normal looking facial structure, whereas when you look at Prince William, he's got the kind of flaccid lips, the inset jaw, the lowered cheekbones, the kind of dark circles around the eyes, and he tends to even stand a little forward. And those are all signs and symptoms of being a mouth breather. It's called long face syndrome. Which is terrible, but true. So there was just one of the many things that we talked about. So again, I went home and they had this list, and I'm going to read this list to you of all the different symptoms and things that go along with mouth breathing. So I guess let me just start with those. Nasal congestion, runny nose, asthma, dry cough, sleep disturbance, fatigue, ADHD and ADD, tongue thrust, poor palatal development, altered speech patterns, high stress level, burping, hiccups, bronchitis, bedwetting, watery itchy eyes, allergies, enlarged tonsils, tonsil stones, bad breath, snoring and sleep apnea, low energy level, failure to thrive, abnormal swallowing habits, crooked teeth, recessive chin, bloating, flatulence, acid reflux. Know anybody with some of these? Chewing with the mouth open, drinking water or liquid after every bite, swallowing air, aerophagia, and tongue tie. Okay, and those are just the ones that are going to be in the book that I'm going to tell you about. Other signs and symptoms that are not discussed in the book are gummy smile. Y'all know what a gummy smile is. People that smile and it's teeth are down here and it's all gums. Long face syndrome, heartburn, gingivitis, silent aspiration, orthodontic relapse, weak or flaccid lips, fibromyalgia, slouched posture, frequent urination at night, pneumonia, addiction to chapstick or lip gloss. I know a lot of girls with that. Chronic fatigue syndrome. So those are all things that have to do with mouth breathing. And I found that super interesting. So again, I took this list and I started highlighting. I'm not a mouth breather, my husband is. So I started highlighting all the stuff that he dealt with. And I brought it home to him and I laid it down in front of him during dinner one night. And I said, look, this is what you have. And this is how they suggest you cure it. And he was like, you want me to what? He was completely convinced I was trying to kill him, but we're gonna hear from him in a minute. So after sitting through 3 hours of this ridiculously amazing lecture, I was of course convinced that like all these people I know with all these different symptoms that are mouth breathers, this could help them. One of the things that they suggested people do for things like sleep apnea, obviously most people with sleep apnea are going to be on a CPAP, very expensive, or they're going to have that little device that's like implanted to keep your airway open, which I can't think of the name right now, or something like that. Whereas turns out the simplest, cheapest, most effective thing you can do is to tape your mouth shut at night. You want me to what? But it works. So give me just a minute and I'm gonna bring my husband in to help me with this one. Be right back. All right, so everybody, this is my husband, Jim. Hi, darling.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And he's gonna tell us like his side of the story on how all this went down. So I came to you after having this 3-hour lecture, and I plopped down a piece of paper with like highlighted symptoms that you were dealing with. Do you want to talk about what some of those maybe were?
Well, I wasn't really a snorer, but occasionally I would when I would get very worn out and tired.
Really tired.
I definitely would look at her, and in comparison, I knew that, wow, she was sleeping with her mouth completely shut, where I could tell I was sleeping with my mouth wide open, and I just kind of figured that can't be healthy. It just seemed to me that sleeping with my mouth shut and having my nose filter the air, if you will, had to be a benefit. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know, your nose system has 7 different filters in it to help filter the air, to filter viruses, bacteria, fungus, all that stuff. It also obviously moistens the air. A lot of stuff that the nose does that the mouth doesn't do. And we can get into like mask wearing in another video on why you shouldn't be mouth breathing behind your mask, but that's some of the reasons why. But for you, you were dealing with nosebleeds. You were starting to get a little bit of sleep apnea. He was waking me up at night because I would hear him quit breathing and then, gasp. And it wasn't bad, but it was getting worse. So that had me worried. And yeah, definitely weekly nosebleeds at least. You did have headaches. You were dealing with a lot of headaches back then. You had allergies. You were taking an inhaler fairly frequently, right? Anything else? I'm trying to remember what other symptoms you had. That's pretty much most of them. So I came to him and I said, hey, we need to tape your mouth shut. And your initial response was,
oh, heck no.
Oh, heck no. And that's pretty much what he said too. It was, oh, heck no. And why? Why? What was your
Just basically, I had a feeling that by taping my mouth shut, I would be drowning. And that, if you will, waterboarding or something. It was just seemed like torture to not be able to breathe the way I've always breathed while sleeping. So it was, she had to do some convincing.
And it took me, what, 2 to 3 months really to kind of convince you to try.
I tried a couple times.
Yeah, the first time it was like 15 minutes and he just tore it off. He was like, I can't breathe, I'm dying. Yeah. He was convinced I was trying to kill him. He even told his family I was trying to kill him.
Yeah. It was an awkward sensation, and I really felt like I had lost control, and this tape was going to be a detriment to my living.
Yeah, right. Well, and it doesn't help either that in like the sci-fi movies or any of the thrillers, they tape the mouth shut, and that's part of the torture, part of the kidnapping process. Like, it doesn't make you feel like you're in control. It really doesn't. So yeah, and that's, I think, mentally part of it as well. But yeah, if you're not used to breathing through your nose, the thought of having to only breathe through your nose when you feel like your nose is always stuffy, which is actually caused by mouth breathing, is scary. It's scary. So yeah. So what we ended up doing was I said, okay, I will do it with you. And we taped, what, 15 or 20?
Which was for her, no big deal.
Right, yeah. For me, it's like, I already breathe through my nose, no big deal. But I figured maybe it would be a helpful support for him. and, you know, make you feel like you weren't so weird, or I don't know. I didn't want you to feel like I was not going to be there for you and support you with this. So we taped our mouths 15 or 20 minutes before bed. And the reason we did that and not just as we were getting into bed was because it gives your body and your brain time to adjust to having your mouth shut. It also helps to open those nasal passages before you go and lay down. And it's the same thing like if you're using a night guard. You're not going to get used to the night guard if you just pop it in your mouth and go to bed, because your brain's going to be like, hello, there's something in my mouth, and you're going to pop it out in the middle of the night. So we did it, and I think the first night you still pulled it off. And then we tried again a couple days later maybe, and we successfully made it through the night, and I woke up with my tape on. Was your tape on the first night? I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And what was your initial response to waking up having slept all night with your mouth shut?
It was just it literally took me at least an hour to fall asleep that first time.
Yeah.
Just because,
It's
again,
stressful.
it was stressful. It was, there's no getting around it. It was just very odd feeling. And after I finally fell asleep, it was like, okay, I can do this. And been doing it consistently ever since. Even on nights where I may go to bed where I'm a little congested, I seem to be able to wake up and still be able to breathe, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. I appreciate you waking up in the morning personally. So it's been successful. So as far as like symptoms for your allergies, your headaches, your bloody noses, what happened with that stuff?
All of that has gone away.
It really has, yeah.
I've spoken to some of my other doctors as well, and they recommend it as well, which is...
You had chronic fatigue too. You were pretty tired a lot.
So it's been a benefit.
Like bloody noses stopped almost immediately. When was the last time you used your inhaler?
Man, I can't remember.
A year?
Yeah.
At least a year. He was popping like Tylenol daily.
Not quite.
Oh, it was pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to daily. I rarely catch you in the pill box anymore, so that's good. So overall, just a huge... I felt like it was a big response. I feel like he sleeps better. I definitely sleep better because I'm not waiting for him to breathe anymore. Occasionally he'll kind of pop through his tape and you can, hear him try. And he's gone a few nights where he hasn't worn the tape and has successfully slept with his mouth shut, which is good. But I feel like after about 4 or 5 days, you start mouth breathing again, just out of habit. I just think it's something you've done for so many years that, But overall, we've definitely made huge progress, and it's really helped, I think, general health. You want to show them how you tape?
So there's a number of different tapes on the market, but basically I just use regular, athletic tape.
This is the 3M brand.
And I just tear off a small piece. I make sure that I fold one end over a few times.
Yeah,
so
you can pull it off in the morning.
So it's easier to pull off. But yeah, just, I don't know, few inch.
Kind of your basic,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just enough to cover his mouth. I just grab some here. So I prefer the 3M sensitive tape just because this stuff tends to be a little sticky, especially in the morning, and it does leave a little residue, which is not super fun to kiss, but it does work, and he has a very powerful mouth, so it's probably better for him.
I felt like I needed the stronger tape.
The stronger tape, yeah. And something you can do is you can actually like press it up against your shirt once to make it not so sticky, and just gives a little bit of fuzz on there, so it's not quite as sticky. And then you're just gonna tape. I love you. All right. See? And so you can see that would hold you all night while you're relaxed. But it's not so strong that if you do freak out or if your body says, hey, we need to breathe, you are gonna wake up, you will tear it off, you will open your mouth. Can you force it open? Yeah. So it's not, you're not trapped. It's not duct tape. It's not wrapped around your head. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give that back to you. All right, well, I guess that's all for you. Thank you so much for helping me out today.
You're welcome. Like I said, I believe it's been a huge benefit.
Yeah, and you are, like you said, you're talking to people you know that are mouth breathers and other dentists, and he's kind of spreading the word now about, hey, this changed my life. You should recommend it to your patients that are mouth breathers, and it makes a big difference. So, all right, well, thank you for helping out.
You're welcome.
I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Bye. Alrighty, so big thanks to him for helping us out. Now, if you have children or no children that are mouth breathers, a lot of times this comes from maybe they had a head cold and they started mouth breathing, and when they got over the head cold, they didn't switch back to nasal breathing. That happens. Sometimes it's because a kid got a pet that they're allergic to. The parents aren't really aware that they're allergic to, like a hamster or a cat or a dog, and they start mouth breathing and it's never corrected. What happens with mouth breathing is because your tongue is in the bottom of your jaw. You thrust your teeth forward, which causes crowding. Your palate as a child doesn't develop correctly, which causes all kinds of facial issues, causes breathing issues, causes, goes on and on and on. So if you know children that are dealing with this, get them the book LipZip, Breathe Better to Live Better, and help the parents out, show them what you can do. Bedwetting, all that stuff is tied in with that. There's such interesting stories in there about like ADHD and how it's just the kids are so sleep deprived and so oxygen deprived that they can't function during the day. You tape their mouth shut for a couple of days and they're whole new kids. It's fascinating. Like it was super interesting to me. Depending on the age of the child, like if they're too young, they're not going to understand why you're taping their mouth shut. And obviously it's going to look a little like child abuse. So something that one of the parents did in one of the examples that she gave during the class was this kid had Down syndrome. You can't explain to a kid with Down syndrome why you're taping their mouth shut, so you don't. So what the parent would do is she would sit on the bed as the kid went to sleep every night, and as he would start to mouth breathe, she would very gently just pinch his lips together. And then as soon as he'd start going, then she'd pinch his lips together. And she'd sit there for about, I think she said an hour, until he started nose breathing on his own. And she did that for a couple of days. So she'd sit with him and she'd just pinch his lips shut, and then she'd wait, and then as soon as he opened his mouth again, she'd just pinch him shut again. And eventually his brain took over and he started nose breathing correctly. And she didn't need to be in there anymore. And the teachers immediately noticed a difference in this kid where they came to her and said, "When did you teach him sign language?" And she goes, "Well, he learned it when he was 2, but he hasn't used it in years." And they said, "Well, he started signing this week." So now that he was no longer mouth breathing as a Downs kid, he was able to focus enough that he was remembering his sign language and was able to communicate better. Just interesting stories. So look at your kids, look at the kids around you, and spread the word. Again, get educated, check out this book, check out the other websites that are out there. It's something that I think everybody should be aware of. So if you'd like to learn more, there's actually a lot of different websites you can use. I will link a few of them below in the description box. And there's also the book, LipZip, Breathe Better to Live Better. I will link this below as well. It's just a tiny little thing, but it is so packed full of stories and symptoms and how things were dealt with and what resolved by doing it, tongue ties, and check out the book. There's also a Facebook group, Facebook, and that's just /LipZip, and they've got a group there you can check out. Lots of good information there. I hope that was super helpful and you learned something. Comment below, do you know anybody who's a mouth breather that has these symptoms? Are you a mouth breather? Would you try taping your mouth shut at night? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. This is something that has really changed our lives, and I'm getting better sleep now, he's getting better sleep now, and it's just been really, truly an interesting but amazing journey for us. Like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great New Year's, and we will see you in 2021.